Norway, a beautiful looking country with some of the most incredible looking roads in the world, as you can see.
I'm not sure life gets much better than this. This car, the Ford GT, on this road, the Atlantic Ocean Road, is an absolute dream come true if you're a petrol head. The Ford GT is really rather an enjoyable thing just to tootle about in. Yes, you want to let rip in it. Yes, because it's got 647 horsepower and a carbon tub, carbon ceramic brakes. This thing is basically a Le Mans car that's been legalised for the road. I drove it in the States, this car, and I just thought it was a little bit coarse for a road car, but having spent a lot more time in it now on these fantastic Norwegian roads, I'm really, really utterly falling for the Ford GT.
But the only trouble with Norway from a rev head's point of view is that the speed limits are pretty draconian, which means that in a car like the 647 bhp Ford GT, it can get a touch frustrating, to be honest, even if the scenery is completely stunning. But there is one place you can go in Norway where the rules don't count, and it's called the Arctic Circle Raceway.
Wow, here we are. Here we are, the Arctic Circle Raceway. They built it in the middle of a quarry, but it's actually a lot more beautiful than that already, because there are trees everywhere and there's snow on the mountains up there. Oh man, this place is funky. Wow, I wonder what the track's like. I wonder what the layout's like.
The Arctic Circle Raceway was built in 1995 and sits just a few kilometres outside the Arctic Circle itself. It's the northernmost racetrack in the world and is used mainly for bike racing nowadays. In any car, but especially a Ford GT, it really is a proper driver's circuit, with 13 corners, most of which are seriously quick, and all of which have a lovely, natural, undulating fluidity to them. And when it's damp, which is quite often the case in this part of Norway, the ACR is just about the perfect place in which to let rip in a 216 mph Ford GT. plan at the raceway was always to try and set a new road car lap record for the track. Not with me behind the wheel, but instead with Ford's Le Mans ace, Stefan Mucker. But before that happened, it was time for me to go out and have a little play.
It's awesome, this place. It really is. I mean, it's a little bit shabby around the edges, but I kind of like that. It's a proper driver's track, this. It was designed by a kind of conglomerate of Scandinavian engineers, and they, as quite a few circuits end up doing nowadays, they pinched or tried to replicate the kind of, not exactly the style, but the nature of various different tracks. So you've got a bit right up there, which they call the North Pole, which is very much meant to kind of have the nature of the corkscrew at Laguna Seca. But there is a problem that if you fall off, you're going to hit something very hard and very quickly, because the runoffs aren't very big. But who cares? So I think before I shunt the GT by playing around with it too much more, I just need to hand the keys over to Stefan and see what he can do.
Once the circuit had dried out, Mucker was straight on it, and we could hear the GT's twin-turbo V6 and its monstrous exhaust note echoing off the scenery all the way around the lap. Within 4 laps, he was already 3 seconds inside the lap record. And then he came back into the pits, climbed out, had a chat with the technicians, and they decided to drop the pressures on the big Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tyres by 4 psi all round. And then he was back into the car, back into track mode, which drops the ride height theatrically, as you can see, and back out onto the raceway again, this time trying a fair bit harder, both visually and audibly. In the end, Stefan got down to a 1 minute 36.29 second lap, which was almost 5 seconds inside the lap record. And this is what that looked like from on board the car itself. As he starts the lap, Mucker is in 5th gear and hits 140 miles an hour before braking very hard for turn 1, which he takes in 3rd gear. He short shifts back up to 5th through the next 2 corners before again downshifting to 3rd for a tighter left-hander and has a bit of a moment. And then from here down to 2nd for the tightest corner on the track. And you can see just how hard he's pushing from the onboard footage. From here he short shifts again up through 4th into 5th through a fast kink onto the back straight, and then down to 4th for a horrendously fast chicane. From here he then goes back up to 5th for what's probably the hardest corner to get right at the raceway, a 3rd gear left-hander that just goes on forever and which is slightly off camber. Out of this he gets 4th momentarily and then downshifts back to 3rd for another difficult right-hander. Then back up to 4th momentarily again before another 3rd gear right-hander that tightens at the exit. Watch out for the flick of oversteer he gets here. Then it's another short burst up to 4th before braking over 2 evil bumps into the final corner, as you can see. And in the final corner, he downshifts halfway through to get second to get a better exit onto the pit straight. Then it's just back up through the gears to 5th as he crosses the line, and 1 minute 36.29 seconds later, that's that.